Hello and welcome to the Carolina Snowflakes Podcast, where two Southerners come to terms with their liberal snowflake tendencies. We're your hosts. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Jason. And we're here with this week's episode of the Carolina Snowflakes Podcast. This one is a somber episode, and we're starting off on a sad note because, as the name of this episode suggests, the Democrats have canceled Dr. Potato Head.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's tragic. The Democrats, they got together, they voted, and they said, Dr. Potato Head, you will be no more. So now we just have Potato Head, and Dr. Seuss, apparently, I guess we buried him, or...
He's gone.
He's gone forever. They burned him in a fire or something.
That's sad. Those
It's now illegal to say Dr. Seuss.
Democrats.
Yeah.
You know what I like to call them?
Democrats.
Democrats.
Yeah.
Ruining everything worthwhile.
Yeah, and they really did this time. They really screwed the pooch this time because we love Dr. Seuss, and how could they?
How dare they?
How could they ever throw him under the bus? Except for that they didn't. I mean, you know.
Right.
The Democrats didn't have anything to do with it. But that is not the message here. The message here is that we no longer have Mr. Potato Head. It's now just Potato Head, which is hard and confusing for me.
It is. I mean, how do I go on and function like the person I used to be?
Yeah.
If I can't say Mr. Potato Head.
I know. If I put his eyes upside down where his penis usually is and put his shoes where his hands go, how do I know he's still a man if he's just named Potato Head? I don't know anymore.
Wait. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
They don't have a penis.
Yeah,
right?
I know.
You just made one for yours.
Yeah, I cut an extra hole in my Mr. Potato Head so he could have a dong. That's how I knew he was a male.
Right. You had to,
it was important to me to know.
So you set that precedent
yeah, it's important
early
to know.
on. All right.
Hasbro, in their evil Democrat ways, have decided that they were going to take that away from me.
Commies.
Yeah. So now I have all these plastic Mr. Potato Head dildos that I can't put anywhere because he's genderless.
Ugh.
Yeah.
The nerve.
The nerve.
And now you can't read Dr. Seuss to your Potato Head,
No.
Mr. Potato Head, anymore either.
I like to say, I think we could have maybe punished Dr. Seuss by just like taking away his doctorate. And we just started publishing those books and called it by Mr. Seuss.
That's right.
Like maybe that would have been an appropriate punishment.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But the liberals, they probably just want to call him Seuss.
Yeah, just Seuss.
Just Seuss.
Yeah. You could have a comma and then MD, I guess. Like, he's a doctor, but no longer a doctor of making our children's lives whimsical. He's now a doctor of racism.
Right.
Even though he got better.
Right.
But anyway. And no, we haven't lost our minds. That was a satirical sketch about the events of the past week.
Which seems like a lot.
There has been. And it's also a critique of like what you would see on Fox News as opposed to like reality. So as I guess a disclaimer, even though I don't feel I should have to do that.
I mean, if I see one more of my conservative friends on Facebook saying that Democrats are trying to ruin Dr. Seuss, I'm going to explode.
Yeah, so for clarity's sake, I guess we'll say that Hasbro decided to change the name of Mr. Potato Head.
Just a Potato Head.
Just a Potato Head. That's on them. I don't know or care much why they made that decision. I do know that they're a corporation, so like they're kind of legally bound to make the best decision for their shareholders, which means they thought it would make more money changing the name.
And Dr. Seuss, the Dr. Seuss estate and publishing company are the ones who decided that the 6 books will no longer be published or printed.
And much like the Hasbro situation, I believe that their main motivation is that they think this will get them more money in the long run.
Yeah, I think they also I read about it, they just put together a panel of experts and had them look at these books, and they decided, you know what, some of them really aren't in the best taste. And to be perfectly honest, they aren't even in his top, 20 most popular books anyway. They're towards the bottom.
Yeah, so, I mean, as far as I can tell, those are decisions that companies made because they thought it was best for their money or for their image.
Either way, neither have actually been, quote, canceled.
And I think
and neither were canceled by Democrats.
Right. And I think sort of both of them have the right to do that if that's what they want to do and they think that it's the right call.
Right.
So it's kind of one of those situations where it's funny that they're blaming the Democrats, but it's also kind of scary. But I've heard a lot of people saying, like, as long as they're focused on that, they're not paying attention to, like, what Biden's actually doing. And, like,
that's true.
That's nice.
If Fox News is all wrapped up in the world of potato heads and Dr. Seuss land, then they're not paying attention to legislature that's actually happening. And speaking of, the Senate passed the Biden deal, so the relief funds for the pandemic.
And they're instead gonna talk about the Dr. Seuss and Mr. Potato Head, which is cool.
I mean, I guess whatever.
I think it's because they don't really have a platform, so like all they have is the culture war at this point. Like that's what unifies the Republican Party. The people who are the crazy Q nuts and the people who are your regular conservatives only have one thing in common, and that's the culture war.
Right, and so they're busy trying to piece themselves back together, much like a potato head. And the only thing they're finding to unify these factions of conservatives is things like this, like the potato head or like the Dr. Seuss. That's all they got.
Yeah, and it's kind of telling, and like in a way, it's not that bad of a thing, but it's fun to make fun of, and that's what we were doing.
That is, we were poking fun.
Because it's ridiculous. I think it's interesting to bring up cancel culture, though, because a lot of things have happened around that this week. There was a lot. I don't know if you out there have heard, but there's the Eminem debacle.
Yeah, so apparently some younger folks, Gen Zers, took to TikTok and decided that they were going to target Eminem, the rapper Eminem, to take him down, to quote, cancel him for some lyrics in a song that came out forever ago.
Yeah.
And a bunch of millennials
were like, no.
Apparently took to TikTok and clapped back.
Yeah, we're like, fuck y'all, Eminem.
At the Gen Zers of being like, don't you dare try to come for Eminem.
Well, in this particular example, I see it as like Eminem evolved and got past his like misogynist and homophobic ways, and then actively sought out to like say, I don't believe that shit anymore.
Just to kind of set the scene, you and I both were, well, A, we're millennials, and B, Eminem was a pretty big part of our growing up.
He was everywhere.
And our development. I had his CDs. I listened to them. You did as well. The man's prolific when it comes to rap as a genre. I even talked about him in one of our BLM episodes, how he's constantly winning all the Grammys for the rap genre. He's really talented. And as you just pointed out, he's one of those artists where, in his earlier years, he definitely had some lyrics that
were bad.
Would be that constitute as kind of like controversial and bad.
Yeah.
And if they were to be coming out today, I think he probably would be canceled.
Right.
But he's been around long enough to where
he changed.
He's evolved.
And now
he has. He's changed.
He's put out songs saying, I regret those things that I said before and I don't feel that way and I wish I could take it back. And he did that way before anyone was trying to cancel him. He did that on his own free will.
Right.
Because he does regret it.
His music is one of evolution because it's how he communicates, it seems, is through lyrics. And so you can follow the progression of Eminem and his development as a human through his songs.
Yeah. He started off with songs that were considered gay hating and then ended up doing a duet with Elton John. And Elton John coming out and being like, this dude isn't homophobic. He used to be, and he isn't anymore.
Right.
And he like feels bad about it.
Right.
And to me, if there's any example of someone who doesn't need to be canceled, it's someone who got better, quote unquote, about their problems, who seems to be learning and going in the right direction.
Right. Which kind of points out, we've had this conversation just privately before, is like this phenomenon of this cancel culture.
It's weird.
It's bizarre.
The rules make no sense.
I don't think there really are any rules.
Yeah.
And it's almost like on this spectrum of what it means to be canceled and who gets targeted and how they're targeted and what happens.
I mean, I think of people considering Dave Chappelle to be too controversial when it's obvious that Dave Chappelle is actively being anti-racist on almost every sketch on his show that he ever did was anti-racist, and yet somehow he's bad.
It definitely seems that a lot of satire is lost on many.
Yeah.
And it's taken as face value when that was not the intent.
Yeah, when you're trying to show how foolish something is, you can sometimes adopt that position and show its ridiculousness. That's the whole point of satire, and yet that gets lost on people.
So when we decided that we wanted to talk about just this phenomenon of cancel culture, I was like, I want a definition.
Well, I wanted to mention one more thing that happened this week before we get into the definition, and that is Cuomo, the governor of New York.
What's his name? Andrew?
Yeah.
Cuomo.
He has had many sexual harassment allegations. I believe he did it. He just seems like that type of dude to me.
Yeah, and
he's a New Yorker. I mean, like that's...
I do believe the women who have come forward. I believe that he made them uncomfortable, and I do believe that he touched them in ways that was uncomfortable for them and inappropriate.
We did an experiment to discover how inappropriate that would be.
We did.
So this infamous photo's come out now where he's lit like the devil. I mean, like he's red.
For some reason, the angle and the lighting of the room just makes him glowing red in this photo.
Satan. And he's grabbing this girl by her ears and like her neck.
He's got his hands placed behind her neck, like up to like the back of her head, and then kind of his palms on her cheek.
Mm-hmm. And he's holding his hands there on both sides of her face, looking straight at her, and she looks like a deer in headlights, like she looks
petrified,
freaking out. And he looks like Satan. And we were like, how awkward really is that? So her and I have been together for 5 years. We're in love.
We almost 6 years.
Yeah, almost 6 years.
Yeah.
And when I walked up to her and put my hands behind her ears like that and just stared at her in the face, she got a deer in headlights.
I did. Look. I froze. I was like, okay, that's uncomfortable.
And then she did it to me, and I felt awkward.
Yeah, we Cuomo'd each other.
Yeah.
Just to see, because I was like, what does that feel like when someone who's weird. Larger than you puts their hands like that if I didn't know you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so like I try to imagine I didn't know you, and then you did that, and I was like, okay, that's really uncomfortable, and that's
way beyond the
violation.
Line. Yeah.
And then I did it to you, but I made you like kind of squat down.
Oh yeah, squat down so I was like shorter.
So you were shorter than me, so I would be more domineering over you, and then you did the same thing. You were like, oh yeah, that makes me feel really uncomfortable.
You could try this at home with your partners, and I guarantee you will immediately realize how fucking uncomfortable it is.
Go Cuomo, whoever you live with, and test it for yourselves. You'll see it feels really uncomfortable.
It's just not good.
We also Bidened each other.
Yeah, we did Biden each other.
Because we were like, what's more uncomfortable? Being, held by your neck / head, and
or being sniffed.
Or someone coming up behind you with their hand on your shoulder and sniffing your hair.
Yeah.
We both voted Cuomo's far more.
It is. It makes you feel worse.
Uncomfortable.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, much more violating.
If it's Grandpa Joe and he like touches your shoulder and kind of sniffs near your hair, it's weird. Don't get me wrong.
It's weird. We're not condoning that. It's weird.
It's just less weird than grabbing somebody by their ears and looking at them directly in the face while you're lit up like Satan.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And we also want to put in the disclaimer that this really only applies to people. If you want to Cuomo like your pets.
Yeah, if you do it to your pets, you grab them behind the ears, they like it.
And then pet them and then like kiss them on the head or whatever.
Yeah.
Or even if you come up behind them and sniff their cute little furry heads.
Yeah.
That like Biden, that's also okay.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. We determined that as well. This is what you and I do during our lockdown pandemic time.
Well, for all we know, this whole conversation was completely inappropriate. We should be canceled for it.
We very well may be canceled.
I have no way of figuring it out because the rules make no sense.
The rules don't make any sense. They absolutely don't. So anyway, so back to like what...
Yeah, we have to decide what is cancel culture.
What is cancel culture? So cancel culture is defined as a modern form of ostracism in which someone is thrust out of social or professional circles, whether it be online, on social media, or in person. Those who are subject to this ostracism are said to be, quote, canceled. The expression cancel culture has mostly negative connotations and is commonly used in debates on free speech and censorship. For those at the receiving end of cancel culture, the consequences can lead to loss of reputation and income, from which it can be hard to recover. Some academics consider the act of canceling someone to be a form of self-policing towards, quote, wrong, oppressive, or inappropriate opinions. It's also considered to be a form of cultural boycott. Interestingly, both of our previous presidents, Donald Trump and Barack Obama, frowned upon cancel culture as a phenomenon. Trump claimed it was a political weapon used to shame, and Obama warned that it was a slippery slope, stating that, quote, people who do really good stuff have flaws too.
Right. No, I can't say I've ever agreed harder with Obama than I do right there. Like, how's anybody supposed to get better?
Right.
When we were talking about this earlier, I brought up the question of, have you ever seen the movie As Good as It Gets?
Yes.
It's a fantastic movie where Jack Nicholson is a homophobic, racist asshole for half the movie, and then in the second half becomes a good guy.
Right.
And like, now Helen Hunt loves him and they're all good.
Right.
But at the beginning of the movie, he's homophobic towards Cuba Gooding Jr., which is terrible to watch. He's also racist towards Cuba Gooding Jr. Greg Kinnear, he calls him all the bad names for gay people in the world. But then in the second half of the movie, he's a good guy. And so my question is, should we cancel the first half of As Good as It Gets?
Yeah, I guess so.
That movie would be terrible if you only watch it halfway through. There's no redemption arc.
Right.
And so if people can't improve, then I don't know what the point of canceling them is. I guess everyone's supposed to always have been great. And then there's alternate examples like Roseanne, where she got worse, and that's the reason she got canceled.
Yes.
So if canceling should be reserved for people who are declining in their discourse, not for people who are improving in their discourse. That is my whole argument here.
And they're definitely there's definitely this like arbitrary sort of decision making on who gets canceled and when and why, and how something someone tweeted a decade ago is now being used to justify not supporting them.
Right.
But then also someone who tweeted something 20 minutes ago. So it's like, where's the line and how do we decide who's in charge here?
For me, it seems like we should put it on a graph. If their discourse is improving, then we don't cancel them. And if it's going down and getting worse, then we do. Like, it seems so logical.
I guess it kind of also just begs the question of like, what is the ultimate goal of, quote, canceling? I don't know. Are we... I guess you and I kind of see it as like, are we trying to correct a wrong and with the hopes that this person will turn around and improve?
Yeah.
Or it seems like in some cases, people genuinely just want that person to no longer exist.
Yeah, that's weird to me.
Yeah.
Because then there's no room for redemption. And like I said, then what's the point?
So according to NPR, in about half a decade, the phrase cancel culture has gone from its slang origins to being laden with partisan political baggage.
Yeah.
6 or 7 years ago, the notion of canceling someone was largely used by younger people, especially on Black Twitter. That's actually where it kind of originated.
Yeah.
And like everything else, it was grossly appropriated
by white people.
Yeah, well, because we can't help ourselves.
There's a shocker.
So as the concept and act of canceling gained popularity in the social media sphere, concerns grew that actions may lead to the suppression of free speech. That perceived punitive atmosphere came to be known as the cancel culture.
Yeah.
And people on the left were often accused of perpetuating it.
Yeah.
The phenomenon of cancel culture is not simply about no longer buying someone's products, but it's about groups working in unison to deplatform and completely remove them from existence.
Yeah.
Simply not buying a product or service isn't enough these days. They actually want the person, like I said, to no longer exist.
Yeah.
One of the biggest issues with cancel culture is that what one person might see as being canceled for controversial statements, another might see as being held accountable for offensive or harmful views.
Yeah, and it's really interesting when it's just words. So like there are people who have gotten canceled for actions, who like assault, like I want to bring up Bill Cosby. And like in general, I want to leave them out of this conversation because that's a whole other can of worms.
Yes and no. Like, I do think that the whole Me Too movement definitely like overlaps with the cancel culture.
Yeah, for sure.
So does the Black Lives Matter movement. Right. So it's like, I don't like completely disagree with like canceling someone if they've done something egregious and or illegal,
right?
Illegal actions or something.
Exactly.
But there's no set standard.
Yeah, and it's weird that we would call the same thing that happened to Mr. Potato Head.
Yes.
The renaming of Mr. Potato Head, that we would call that the same thing that we call Bill Cosby getting arrested for his illegal acts.
It's because
they're not remotely the same.
Well, it's because cancel culture has gotten so political.
Right.
It's become a political term, like tossed around. Many believe that the use of the term cancel culture has been overused. And over-applied to the point that it no longer means anything. In linguistics, the term used to describe what has happened is called semantic bleaching, where words don't have the meaning they once had before.
Right.
Other examples of semantic bleaching include terms like literally or politically incorrect or woke. In many instances, these words went from their original meaning to being political weapons used by people claiming to be concerned about freedom of speech and expression.
Yeah.
For example, and this is super interesting, in the 70s and 80s, the term politically correct was actually used by lefties as sort of like a jab at each other, like an inside joke to make fun of themselves.
Yeah, it's like saying you're too scared to say what you really feel.
Yeah, they were making fun of themselves. But that term eventually entered the world of the mainstream in the 90s and became like the political attack of like, these lefties and their political correctness are trying to censor us. Well, it's unfortunate that this whole thing plans out like that, because I hate to say it, but like, I'm a pretty liberal dude, but I line up with the libertarians on this whole freedom of speech thing pretty hard. And I don't want to be one of those guys who's like, well, I'm not a committed liberal. I am, but like, this whole censorship thing is crazy. It is. And another interesting thing, back to the kind of politicalization of quote cancel culture, is that it's now, the term is now kind of replacing fake news.
Yeah.
So instead of the crazy conservatives yelling fake news about everything they disagree with, they're now yelling cancel culture. It's the lefties canceling everything that's worth a damn.
Which is, it's so funny. I think it's fascinating that that it's in every industry. I was pointing this out earlier, and I think we did an episode on video games, but I'd like to point out that the video game industry is way behind any other media in its like evolution of wokeness, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And in that industry, being that like they're 30 years behind where the rest of us are, it's taken a really long time to try to move things more forward in a more progressive way. And like we have to restructure the way we make video games in order to fix that problem. And a lot of people are realizing that. Because I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, as much as I love video games, they're so far behind on being progressive.
Yeah, they're still expecting secretaries to be women in skirts, and they call them toots.
Yeah, right. Like it's so far behind in that particular industry. And
well, it's because it's been so male dominated for so long, and you get too many men together, and they're all locked in a room and making video games, probably not bathing, I assume, and they get gross.
Yeah. But the irony to me is that we don't cancel Leonard Skynyrd, which we did an entire episode about how dicked up Leonard Skynyrd is.
Some of those songs,
and they never apologized and said, "Oh yeah, we were wrong about playing in front of rebel flags." They doubled down on it and said they're glad they did it, which is like, if anybody deserves canceled, it's that.
But they did admit that Sweet Home Alabama is a racist song.
Yeah, and he was on this. Remember, he said the one dude in Leonard Skynyrd says he still has George Wallace's signed shit on his wall, and he's proud of it. So I mean, like, if anybody should be canceled, it'd be the people who didn't improve.
Right. Yeah. So there's this like blurry line of like what gets canceled, what's deserved canceled, and then what even is canceling.
Right.
Because not all people who, quote, get canceled actually, like, go away or are punished for what they do.
I made the argument for Eminem that he canceled himself by getting old. Before anybody else could cancel him.
Yeah, he's like, what are you kids doing? Get out of here.
He's 48 years old.
He's almost 50.
Yeah.
So I sat down and made a list of some of famous people who have been targeted by cancel culture. Some fall within the Me Too movement, some fall under kind of BLM, and some were really canceled. Others got a slap on the wrist, and some barely got a scratch.
Yeah.
But all these people are lumped together as being targets.
I know,
of
that's
cancel.
what's so weird about it.
All right, so we
Get
start
ready
off
for this list.
Yeah, here, it's a great list.
Yeah.
R. Kelly,
Yeah.
Jussie Smollett,
Or as Juicy Smouye.
yeah, Dave Chappelle calls him Juicy Smouye.
Uh-huh.
Roseanne,
Uh-huh.
Bill Cosby, Kathy Griffin,
Yeah.
Dave Chappelle,
Mm-hmm.
Louis C.K.,
Yeah.
Kevin Hart, J.K. Rowling,
Yeah.
Abby Lee Miller. She's the host of that dance show.
Yep.
She made some racist comments.
Uh-huh.
YouTuber Shane Dawson,
Oh, yeah.
Ellen DeGeneres,
Uh-huh.
Al Franken,
Yep. Frankengroper.
Colin Kaepernick,
Yeah.
Chris Harrison, who's the host of The Bachelor.
Yeah, that's recent.
He canceled himself,
Yeah.
which is an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Matt Lauer,
Oh, that one. Oof.
Jenna Marbles, also a YouTuber who canceled herself.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And then this may surprise you, Chris Pratt.
Oh, yeah.
He got shots fired at him from Elliot Page,
Oh.
the transgender
Yes.
star from the movie Juno,
Uh-huh.
because he claimed that Chris Pratt attends a church that is connected to a different church that is anti-LGBTQ. And so for a while, for a hot minute, the hashtag RIP Chris Pratt was trending on Twitter.
Well, there's another interesting point with Chris Pratt that ties into Eminem. So a lot of people don't know this, but I've seen it in interviews. Chris Pratt lived in a van in Hawaii for a long time before he became a famous actor. And he had like 2 CDs and they were both Eminem CDs. And he can rap whole Eminem songs all the way through. He's really good at it.
He's like a diehard Eminem fan.
Yeah.
But he's
throwing that out
also
there.
absolutely beloved by a lot of Gen Zers.
I would think so, yeah.
So the irony, right?
Uh-huh.
And then, so cancel culture goes beyond just people.
It's this weird shotgun that just can hit
It can hit anything, including television shows. So within the last year, both the shows Cops and Live PD were literally canceled. Yep. And that was a result of the BLM, the Black Lives Matter movement.
That one's so justifiable to me because it was real life. They weren't that wasn't a joke. It wasn't satire. It wasn't art. It was real.
Yes. Yeah. So it's one of those things where it's like, so I look at this list and I'm like, well, Bill Cosby for sure should have been canceled.
Did things that were blatantly illegal.
Cops and Live PD, yeah, they should have been canceled because racism. But then I look at other things and it's like Kathy Griffin.
Yeah, really. What did she get canceled for?
Remember,
she's the cutting off Donald Trump's head.
She held up a fake Donald head.
I don't know in what
decapitated
universe.
Head.
That's not. Yeah, that's crazy.
Then there's also not just like so the Cops and Live PD, they canceled the entire show. Now what's also happening is that specific episodes from different shows are being pulled from streaming.
That frustrates me to no end.
So far, there's been episodes that have been removed from streaming from The Golden Girls, which I love that show. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Love it. One of my favorite shows.
Scrubs.
I love that show too.
And Community.
Also, all those shows are shows I love. And Workaholics.
Yes,
they pulled an episode of Workaholics too. And I love all those shows. And all the episodes they pulled were satires that were making fun of being racist or being homophobic or being pedophilic.
It's one of those where you're just like,
I don't get it.
Really, guys?
Yeah.
Like, do you not get what's the point of this episode? Is it lost?
I think it is. I mean, I literally think it's the same people who, when Jonathan Swift wrote A Modest Proposal and said that we should eat all the Irish babies, that they believed that he really meant that he really thought that we should
be
Irish
eating
babies.
babies.
Yeah.
which I find interesting because that same logic has progressed into the crazy QAnon people believing that Democrats are a global cabal
of
baby-eating vampires.
Yeah. And it all starts with a misunderstanding of satire.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which then I can't help but wonder if I could talk to these folks.
Yeah, I know.
If I could just sit down with them for a minute, my question would be, what do you find funny?
Yeah, really. What is funny?
Yeah, what is funny to you? Because if these episodes of It's Always Sunny are offensive to you, then what do you find funny?
I know. That's a really good point. If we cancel all the funny shit from our side, then only their side's going to have comedy. And I don't know how you're going to have anybody left on our side.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because if we take all the jokes away...
I don't want to sit through a comedy show of just knock-knock jokes.
Yeah, I don't at all.
And dad jokes.
Yeah.
Like, I want some satire. I want some comedy that makes me think and that tackles real world issues, but in a way that's so over the top and ridiculous, you can't help but A, know that it's a joke.
Yeah.
And B, know that your opinion is the right opinion because it's so ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, I've played many a racist character to try to make a point. And I mean, I guess in all honesty, those either were bad decisions, you could look at it that way, or a way to point out racism in a unique way that might get people to pay more attention than just trying to say, stop being racist. But
then there's also the category, which I don't know how to word other than other.
Yeah.
Of other that have kind of been canceled or canceled themselves. And the two that I could think of were the bands Lady Antebellum.
Yeah, they just canceled their name.
And the Dixie Chicks.
Yeah, they canceled their name too.
Both of whom changed their name. So Lady Antebellum is now called Lady A.
Yeah.
And the Dixie Chicks are now just the Chicks.
The Chicks, which is really
which
weird.
is kind of strange.
Yeah.
Also, the irony that Lady Antebellum changed their name to Lady A while there is a established decades-long blues artist, singer, lady named Lady A.
Well, they just think they could just take it.
They just took it.
Yeah.
Even though she's been performing and has recordings and has been around singing the blues.
But she's
for
a
years.
woman.
She's a black woman, too.
And black.
Oh, the irony on that one. They changed their name from Antebellum to A, and they happened to also steal the name from a black singer. Oh.
Yeah, but there you go. That's improvement. In some universe, that's improvement.
Yeah.
And I really fear the getting rid of things that are bad, because if you think about what happens if we cancel all the stuff that's offensive and wrong, then what, we don't watch Roots anymore because it has the N-word? Like, we need to watch that movie. Americans need to see Roots. Right. You need to see what people were like. And if we go canceling everything because it's got words in it we don't like, then we won't have Roots, and we won't have the things that, like, we need to grow.
Right.
And I've said it before. Think about this in terms of a computer. So, like, if you're trying to work on version 2.0, you don't just delete all of 1.8 because it's not good.
Because it offended you.
Yeah. No, that's not how you do things.
Right.
You don't get rid of all the old stuff because it's bad.
There is definitely a concern especially among academia, that too much canceling and too much, like, safe space has the potential to sweep under the rug and omit truth and real things that happened in history. So it's like this, like I said, the whole cancel thing is just this blurry line and arbitrary rules that don't seem to make any sense. And then some things get canceled, some things don't get canceled. And there's a real risk of the truth getting canceled.
Yeah. And then if we don't know what was wrong with the shit we made before, how are we supposed to make anything better?
How are we supposed to evolve and improve if we don't build upon the truth?
You can't just watch the second half of As Good as It Gets. It just doesn't work as a film.
You can't just watch half of a movie.
It just doesn't work as a film. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
I don't understand why there's no room for redemption anymore.
Yeah, I think you and I are on the same page on that as far as, like, we have hope that, I mean, not Bill Cosby, but we have hope that people can change.
Yeah.
and evolve. And we also feel that it's ridiculous to go after and attack people who clearly already have begun that process of evolution and improving.
If you took into the things that I've said in the past and the things I've typed in video game chat in the past, and you printed all that out and were like, look at all the horrible stuff he'd said, you would be like, well, then he needs to be canceled from this earth. But it's like, no, I got better is the thing. I don't do that anymore. I know why it's wrong, and now I actively fight to not have it happen anymore and to try to explain logically why you shouldn't behave that way.
Right.
Do you want someone who went the other way, who started off good and is now bad? Like, that's so much worse.
Right. Because, I mean, it's all... Life is a lesson. And if we're going to continue living, then we need to continue to learn those lessons and to build upon them.
Yeah. So I think if we're going to be pointing this wokeness gun around at people, we should probably aim at people who are getting worse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where you can see the progression going in the opposite direction, like Roseanne would be a really good. That was a correct call.
Exactly.
Or R. Kelly, another correct call there.
People who are not learning from their mistakes and getting better. Yeah, it's weird and it's ass backwards and I don't understand.
Yeah. So really, we're just here to say we don't get it.
I don't get
we don't understand cancel culture.
No, it seems to me to be really crazy and random. And there's been a lot of it this week. And
so much.
We really wanted to tackle it.
Also, do go Cuomo someone in your household.
Yeah.
Just
that
see.
Loves you, then see that it's even awkward.
And then have them Cuomo you back.
Yeah, but don't do it to your pets. They like it.
Pets love it, so that won't really matter.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you want to Cuomo your pet, that's cool.
Yeah.
But Cuomo a human that you love and have them do it back to you just to see.
And you'll see.
You'll see.
And after you get done Cuomoing your family, if you want to find more of our episodes to go back and find reasons to cancel us, you can find the backlog at our website,
carolinasnowflakes.com.
Or if you want to go and gather some other individuals to mass a cancellation army, you can find them grouped together on Facebook at
facebook.com/Carolina Snowflakes.
And if you've been canceled and you can't get a hold of us on Facebook because you're banned and you can't use the internet really good because you're banned, you can Gmail us and I'll just talk to you about how much that sucked.
carolinasnowflakes@gmail.com.
gmail.com.
Thanks for listening. Bye.